Nestled along Ghana's central coastline, Cape Coast is a fishing town with a haunting legacy. During the transatlantic slave trade, this peaceful shore was a hub of violence and exploitation. European powers built more than 40 forts and castles up and down Ghana's coast, not to defend territory, but to traffic gold and human lives. Cape Coast stands as one of the most infamous.
Let's come from Britain. In the Americas, they were trafficking the Africans mostly to the colonies in the United States, the Caribbean, the likes of Jamaica, Barbados, Bahamas, and over there, the Africans were enslaved, used as forced labor on the sugarcane, the tobacco, and the cotton plantations. In the early 1800s, the British stopped trafficking Africans from our shores, but they did not leave, they stayed. The reason they stayed was the gold and the natural resources we have. The British government wanted direct control of these natural resources. So gradually, the British created what became known as the Gold Coast Colony. On the 6th of March, 1907, we declared our independence from British colonial rule. And that is when we changed the name from Gold Coast to Ghana.
Beneath the castle lies its most harrowing truth, the slave dungeons. Men and women were kept here, sometimes for 3 weeks, other times for up to 3 months, crammed into pitch-black cells with no light, no air, and no mercy. They never left the dungeon alive unless it was to board a ship. And when I walked through the men's dungeon, I noticed the ground was oddly smooth. That's because it's layered with centuries of dried human waste, feces, urine, blood, and vomit that had nowhere else to go. Up to 1,000 men were kept in this one space, and hundreds of women in theirs. Some died here, and some were stacked upon each other.
Or doors fixed at the entrance. 3. The men in the dungeon, they fought for their freedom. They tried to escape. The freedom fighters, they were taken out of the dungeon, beaten at the courtyard and put in almost half it. When they put a captive in, they closed the 3 doors. No food, no water, no air. The captive stays until he dies. The idea was to kill the African, but to kill him slowly and painfully. To use him set an example to the others. So the freedom fighters, they were killed or murdered in the condemned himself.
This is the pathway to the door of no return. It led from the dungeons to the waiting ships, and once enslaved Africans passed through it, they were gone forever. They were forced out into the blinding daylight after months in darkness, then shackled and loaded onto boats bound for the Americas. Families were torn apart here. Generations lost their roots here. And even today, standing in that doorway, it's hard not to feel the weight of all that vanished through it. Cape Coast Castle is a sprawling fortress with cannon-lined walls, upper quarters for governors, and lower chambers for suffering. It changed hands many times, controlled once by the Portuguese, then switched over to the Swedes, then over to the Dutch, and eventually with the British. Today, the castle shares space with small souvenir shops and local vendors, a severe contrast to its past, but a reminder that life continues even after history breaks us.